Actually, this topic is more a sort of revision because already pancreas is being covered in your endocrinology. This is mostly a sort of revision for you. Just concentrate, nothing much to be stressed about. Just before going to the main topic, let us talk about the world and the unprivileged sections of the society. Poverty is not an accident like slavery. It is man-made and can be removed by actions of human beings. So this is the South African former president Nelson Mandela who told these fine words. So whenever possible, wherever possible, try to help the people who require our help. You do not need religion to have morals, whatever be the religion. There is no need for having a religion tag to have moral. Morals is a different thing, how you live in this world. If you can't determine the right from the wrong, then you lack empathy, not religion. So you should also differentiate the right and always be on the right track. Help you. Do not waste your words on people who deserve your silence. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. So observe this. When something is hurting you, and don't try to resort back and then speak words against that individual, creating some unpleasantness. So do not waste your words. So when you encounter such a situation, just keep quiet. Soft-hearted people are not fools. They know what people did to them. But they forgive again and again because they have beautiful hearts. You should also develop this attitude. At the same time, it is too dangerous to be too good. You have to protect yourself in stressful conditions. We teachers open the door, but you must enter by yourself. This is the Chinese proverb. So we show the pathway. We just show you the way, but you have to do everything on your own. Mostly in medical curriculum, you don't get the best quality of the faculty or best quality of everything. So you have to open your mind and look at the things and act accordingly. Everything will not be as open and as comfortable as things looks like. You have to open your eyes, open your mind, and then look at yourself and then come to a conclusion. So 10 working tips for your bright future. So we live in a society. With society, you have different types of people. And in this society, you have to coordinate and work with such people. So generally, do not get into trouble. Don't get into trouble with your friends. Don't get trouble with your place where you are studying. Don't get into trouble with day-to-day activities. Be careful. And basically, at this stage of your life and career, you should aim at greater heights. At the same time, you should also evolve the ways wherein you can achieve your targets. And you should also aim where exactly you get the greater amount of information, and then you have to search for that to achieve your goals. And you have to stay focused on your goals. Don't take it lightly. You see, actually, I sympathize with your situation as a student. So when you were in class 12 or second year intermediate, there is pandemic in this world, and then everything has done topsy-turvy, and things are not as pleasant as it looks, and then you have to go through a lot of ordeals, a lot of trouble, and then ultimately you are just listening to the online classes, which is not complete to some extent, because it cannot replace the conventional didactic lecture and then conventional meeting people and conventional way of standard classes. You see, stay focused still. If everything goes well, the days will come back to the normalcy. So just because you are at home, don't try to neglect your health, and in between try to go for walking, taking all the COVID precautions, and exercise to maintain good health and be free. So make it a habit when you're coming to the online classes, have a bath. Don't be casual in coming in the night suit and then sitting in front of the television computer. So make it a habit. By the time you come to the classes, have a bath, have your breakfast, as if you are attending a class, and then make this a habit, because the casual looks will rob your activity to some extent. So we live in society, everything is interlinked. We have to, whether you like it or not, we have to live together. So practice teamwork, and then do not try to get into trouble. At the same time, this teamwork within the healthy limits of your association. And rely on your trusted partner. For example, when you believe somebody, you rely on such people, and so that he will take care of you in case of necessity. So rely on your trusted partner to watch your back. At the same time, the life is not as simple as it looks. You have to save for your rainy day. See, suddenly anything can happen in this pandemic world, where everyone is subjected to the unpredictable things that can happen. You see, right now, the health authorities throughout the world are predicting that the next 125 days are very serious, and then there is every possibility of the health getting affected. So always save everything, keep your books in order, and then keep your writing material in order, and then see that you help your parents to get the groceries and other items necessary for an emergency day. So always save something in excess at home. Always take adequate rest and relax. Don't be too stressful and too straining to read. Always you must take adequate rest. A restful mind can perform better work than a stressful mind. And then if you really want to achieve, nothing is impossible in this world. You can achieve everything on this world, in this world. And then within the limitations, try to achieve your targets and read. At this point of time, you have to study, concentrate on your education. Always smile when someone is around. So when you are greeting somebody, just have a good smile, not as complicated as this picture, but still. So we are having the gastrointestinal functions, and then suddenly we thought we'll just tell you something about the diabetes and other things, and we roped in this topic into your gastrointestinal tract. So as you know, it is pancreas is a mixed gland, and it is having the exocrine function and the endocrine function. Exocrine function has been dealt with and will be dealt, or if it is not dealt, it will be dealt with in the gastrointestinal tract. And then the endocrine system has been taught to you. So most of the things which I'm telling is a sort of revision. And we'll also discuss about the clinical aspects of the derangement of the pancreatic secretion. I'll be discussing in the later slides. So in addition, we also have some slides of the exocrine function. I just show you so that it will be a sort of revision for you. So we are talking about the pancreas, and then we are talking about the hormones, and then this is one of the endocrine functions of the pancreas we are talking about. So there are two types of hormones. Hormones, as the name itself suggests, hormone mean I excite to activity. So hormone we are talking is two different chemical natures, which I will discuss later. So you should understand that at this point of time in the body, there are two control systems. So two control systems in the body is one central nervous system, the other one the endocrine system, endocrine glands. So the central nervous system is the control system. Why are we saying that? And then the endocrine system is also the control systems. So in order to maintain the homeostasis, there should be a control systems. So these control systems are the central nervous system and the endocrine system. For example, you are walking and suddenly you hit something, hit some rock or stone, and suddenly you withdraw. That withdrawal is the control system where it acts immediately. So the central nervous system acts immediately, and you withdraw your leg from the source of injury. So suddenly the sensory information goes from the site of injury to the brain, and brain sends information through the motor activity, which I said, the advanced area number of the area 4 and 6, and then send signals to the corresponding muscles for withdrawal from the source of infection. This is under your voluntary control. Whereas the endocrine functioning is slow acting, wherein because of the changes in the environment. So let us say an individual has gone to the cold climate. For example, they go to a northern part of India or Kashmir or other places where the temperature is cold, and then body temperature got to be raised. So what happens is body system will be releasing a hormone like thyroxine, which increases the metabolism in the body, where it raises the body temperature, suiting the environment in which you are presently staying. So this particular system where the temperature is slowly rising, where the hormones are acting, that is, your thyroid gland is stimulated and temperature control system in the hypothalamus is stimulated. That in turn will be stimulating the pituitary. Pituitary in turn will be stimulating the thyroid gland. Thyroid gland will release the thyroid hormones, and thyroxine hormones are released into the circulation, and then the entire body system, wherein the temperature is slightly raised to keep the body homeostasis. So that is the maintenance of the constancy of the internal environment. Bring about the biological activity. At the same time, you make yourself comfortable in that release of the hormones. So these are the two control systems in the body. And then there are two types of hormones, chemical nature of the hormones. One is the peptide hormone. The other one, as you know, is the steroidal hormone. So the mode of action of the peptide hormone at the cell level is quite different from the mode of action of the steroidal hormone. So the peptide hormone, that means peptides are the protein type of thing. So the hormone first binds to the receptor, water-soluble hormone, which will be binding to the receptor here. So this receptor will be initiating some changes within the cell. So mode of action of the hormone at the cell level you are talking about. And this peptide hormone will be combining with the receptor peptide hormone complex will initiate the action of cyclic AMP. That is, ATP is converted to cyclic AMP by the enzyme adenyl cyclase. And this cyclic AMP will be activating the enzymes. And then the activated enzyme will catalyze the reaction that produces the physiological responses. Mostly, the physiological responses involve the protein kinase activity, and then altered protein synthesis takes place in the target gland where this particular hormone is active. So this is the first thing, this combining with the receptor, and then it results in the changes within the cell, and this particular thing is called the second messenger. Sometimes the second messenger can be calcium ion. The calcium ions will be entering from outside to inside the cell and then activate. And this particular activity will bring about the phosphodiesterase changes, and then ultimately resulting in protein kinases and then protein synthesis. So this is the mode of action of a peptide hormone. Whereas the mode of action of steroid hormone is quite different. So steroid hormones, what are the steroid hormones? Is the hormones elaborated by adrenal cortex, namely the glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids and sex steroids. All these things are the steroidal hormones, and then the placental hormones, and then estrogens and progesterones and testosterone. All these things are the steroidal hormones. Basically, steroidal hormones are derived from the cholesterol molecule, and then this particular steroidal hormone will have a ring, that is a steroidal ring, that is cyclopentanoperhydrophenanthrin ring. So you must remember this term, that is cyclopentanoperhydrophenanthrin ring. So these are the steroidal hormones. The steroidal hormones act quite differently from the peptide hormones. That is the thing is about peculiarity of the endocrine system is the endocrine glands directly release into the circulation the substances from the endocrine gland are directly released into the circulation, and then it is carried in the circulation, and it will be acting on specific target glands. For example, thyroxine hormone is to be released. So there is specific hormone released from the anterior pituitary. Anterior-pituitary in turn will be acting on the thyroid only. The thyroxine releasing hormone will be acting only on thyroid. It doesn't act on the adrenal cortex. So there is specificity of these hormones, and then the steroidal hormones will be going through the circulation. Hence, it is called ductless glands. Whereas the exocrine secretion is released by the ducts, and then it will be released into the lumen where it is required. So this steroidal hormone will be acting directly through the cell membrane. This is lipid soluble. The steroidal hormone, the cyclopentanoperhydrophenanthrin ring, is a lipid soluble one, and directly enters through the cell membrane into the cell. And then you have a cytoplasmic acceptor here. This is the hormone, and then this comes here, and then there is cytoplasmic acceptor, and then it enters into the nucleus, and then it results in there is a nuclear acceptor, then results in the transcription producing messenger RNA. So then again it results in mRNA synthesis, and that brings about the protein synthesis. This is how the steroidal hormone acts. So in short, the peptide hormone acts through the receptor, combining at the cell level. So it will not be acting directly into the thing. Whereas the steroidal hormone, because of its structure, will be entering into the cell through the cell membrane, because it is lipid soluble, and then there is a cytoplasmic receptor there, and then it is accepted to the cytoplasmic receptor, and then it enters the nuclear membrane. In the nuclear membrane, it is the elaboration of the messenger RNA. Messenger RNA in turn will be resulting in translation of the information, and that results in the Golgi apparatus, and then this Golgi apparatus results the endoplasmic reticulum, resulting in the development of the newer proteins. So in the examinations, when they ask you about the mode of action of the steroidal hormone or mode of action of the peptide hormone, you must mention all these things. So this is another variant of the steroidal hormone picture of the steroidal hormone action. Steroidal hormone enter into the cytoplasmic acceptor, and then enter into the nuclear membrane, and then the complex receptor binding sites, and then brings about the mRNA changes, and then this ultimately brings about the protein synthesis. And then we are talking about the insulin. Insulin acts on the specific receptors located on the cell membrane, practically in every cell, but their density depends on the cell type, liver, fat, cells, which. So the liver and fat cells are very rich in insulin receptors. Insulin receptor is a receptor, tyrosine kinase, which is tetrameric glycoprotein consisting of two extracellular alpha and two transmembrane beta units linked together by a disulfide bonds orienting across the cell membrane as a heterodimer. Don't bother about all these things. So just know about the insulin structure. It is oriented across the cell membrane as heterodimer. The alpha units carry insulin binding sites, whereas the beta units have tyrosine kinase binding site. Just remember this. So coming back to the pancreas is both an endocrine. You see, I just rushed through these sites because you know most of the things. And then I will try to concentrate mostly on the diabetes and other aspects. Both in endocrine and exocrine gland. Endocrine glands, you have the elaboration of the insulin, glucagon, and somatostatin. So islets of Langerhans or the pancreatic islets are group of cells around the blood vessels. So this is the pancreas, and then it is within the C-shaped duodenum. Duodenum means 12 finger breadths length. Dio means 12. And then this is only a small area, 12 finger breadths area, where you find the head of the pancreas and then the body of the pancreas, and then you have the tail of the pancreas. So 1% of the total mass of the cells is the pancreatic islands or islets of Langerhans, which are endocrine in function. So these pancreatic islets have three different types of cells. One is the alpha cell that secretes the glucagon, and other one is the beta cell that secretes insulin. And you have the delta cells that secretes somatostatin, helps with the carbohydrate metabolism, inhibits the two other hormones. So try to have the visual impression of the picture. So this is the gallbladder, and then you have the gallbladder duct here, and then you have the pancreatic duct, which produces digestive juices. And this joins the bile duct, and then there will be an ampulla or the small dilatation. So this is ampulla of water, this particular small dilatation, which you see at the junction of the bile duct and the pancreatic duct is the ampulla. So this ampulla will open into the duodenum, where there is a small sphincter. That particular sphincter is called sphincter of Oddi, O-D-D-I, sphincter of Oddi. This is ampulla of water and then sphincter of Oddi. So this will be releasing the contents into this. The food enters from the stomach into the intestines, and this is guided by the pyloric sphincter. And then as the food enters, and then it is a stimulus to the gallbladder secretion and the pancreatic secretion. And then the secretin hormone is released, and cholecystokinin PZ is also released. So that results in the elaboration of the bile secretion and pancreatic secretion into the duodenum. So the digestive juices are secreted into the ducts, whereas the endocrine cells will elaborate their secretion directly into the circulation. This is another variant of the cystic duct and common hepatic duct, and then you have the bile duct. This is the pancreatic duct, and then this is opening here. Hepatopancreatic ampulla, and then this is the head of the pancreas, hepatopancreatic sphincter of Oddi here, and this is the tail of the pancreas. So this is another picture of your islets of the Langerhans, and just practice whenever anything is asked. Try to diagrammatic representation of these things together using the sketch plan. Islets of Langerhans, this is pancreatic acini. Acini will be elaborating the secretion, and then they enter into the lumen through the ducts. They go up into, and then they form a bigger ducts and then release the contents into the pancreatic duct and ultimately into the duodenum. The alpha cells, they elaborate glucagon, beta cells elaborates the insulin, and delta cells elaborate the somatostatin. In addition, you also have the pancreatic polypeptide elaboration by the pancreatic islets of Langerhans. So this is uncoupling. So normally, as glucose is getting into the circulation, they enter into the blood vessels, and then glucose entry into the blood circulation will result in the release of insulin. So simplified model, increased, what exactly is happening? We are just trying to increased oral glucose stimulate the release of active incretins, that is GLP-1 and gastrointestinal peptide. And this in turn will result in the stimulation of the beta cells and then alpha cells. Beta cells are stimulated so that the glucose will enter into the muscles. So increased glucose uptake in the muscle happens here. Whenever there is increase in the glucose, increased glucose uptake happens here. So similarly, the incretin is another hormone, which is too early for you to know much details. The incretin response to elevated glucose helps in maintaining glucose homeostasis. So whenever the glucose level falls, there will be resulting in the release of the alpha cell secretion, namely the glucagon. That in turn will be resulting in glycogenolysis and then gluconeogenesis. So blood glucose can enter into different pathways. That is, glucose level when after you're from sumptuous meal. Glucose level rises in the blood circulation, and that will be resulting in the stimulation of the pancreas. Pancreas releases the insulin, and the insulin release can facilitate the entry of glucose into the muscle. And through food, you will be getting blood glucose level. So whenever there is decrease in the insulin level, it results in the gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis. So that liver breaks down, and then whenever there is a fall in the blood glucose, so there will be gluconeogenesis and glycogenolysis, so that the blood glucose level rises. Whenever there is an increase in glucose levels in the body, it becomes fats. And whenever there is fall, it results in the glycogenesis, and then that in turn will be resulting in the glucose formation. So glucose is the only source of energy to the brain. So brain cannot withstand the absence of the blood circulation even for a period of 4 months. So continuous supply of glucose to the brain is necessary. So in order to maintain the homeostasis or maintenance of the constancy of the glucose level in the blood, all these areas will come into play. And then glucose level rises up. So there is diabetes. What exactly is the diabetes, and what exactly results in causing diabetes? So you just try to understand at this point of time. That is excess fluid intake, food intake. That is, if you take more of food. And who are going to become diabetics is the genetic predisposition is very important. You see, mostly it is genetically carried. All those genetic carriers need not necessarily go to the diabetes. And then physical inactivity and excess food intake and then genetic background facilitate this obesity. That is, the individual becomes more obese. And then there is more adipogenesis, that is more fat formation, because there is more amount of calorie intake, and then this food is converted to fats. And then the individual becomes overweight. So overweight, adipogenesis, and then obesity are the main causes of this metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is that which predisposes the individual to diabetes. And this results in insulin resistance. Insulin also starts taking its inactivity. So insulin resistance happens. So these adipogenesis, overweight and obesity, these conditions will result in hyperinsulinemia, wherein the insulin is not acting properly because of insulin resistance, and there is increased secretion of insulin by the beta cells. And then hyperinsulinemia will result in type 2 diabetes. So there is a different thing, that is type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes, where there is congenital deficiency of the beta cells of the islets of the Langerhans is type 1, where the individual becomes diabetic much earlier in his lifetime, the age group. So it is seen in younger age group where there is increase in the blood sugar levels. So that is type 1. And then this type 2 diabetes is maturity onset, or the individuals who have all this obese syndrome, that is the metabolic syndrome, and who have the genetic predisposition. And mostly the elderly people after some age develops type 2 diabetes. That is the thing. So what does diabetes do? What complications does diabetes bring about? Is macrovascular complication. The vessel over the bigger vessels, there will be complications. And then it also results in macrovascular vessels and also the microvascular complication. So the microvascular complications in the sense, the fine blood vessels to the heart, and fine blood vessels to the eyes, and fine blood vessels to the other thing, that is arterioles, meta-arterioles. All these things are slightly damaged because of the diabetes mellitus, and then this results in damage over a period of time. So this pancreatic beta cells is put to a lot of stress and damage, and in the lifetime, over a period of time, the complications set in much earlier than in the normal lifespan, where the individual is normal and healthy. So this is the mode of action of the pancreatic beta cell secretion in the normal individuals. So when the glucose level rises, so it results in the depolarization, and then that raised blood sugar level will result in the entry of calcium into the circulation, and then the raised calcium concentration within the cell will result in the release of insulin secretion by the pancreatic beta cells. And that results in the release of the insulin. Insulin is released out, and then this insulin will be acting on the cell membrane and facilitate the, it is different types of actions which you'll be seeing in different types of cells. For example, liver, it facilitates the entry into the liver, and then the glycogen synthesis is formed. And in the muscle, the glucose facilitates the entry of glucose into the muscle, and then it is stored there. So this is a picture of the pancreas and everything. So this is the histological picture of the pancreas. So normally in anatomy, when you come, there will be histology classes where you will be seeing these slides under the microscope and then seeing. For example, in histology and in histopathology, you will be seeing all these slides of different parts. So these are the normal things. Whenever there is any derangement, you'll be able to see under the microscope. Just a review, alpha cells produce glucagon, and there is another substance which is called ghrelin. So not necessary for you at this point of time. I'll just speak to you later. Beta cells produce insulin. Insulin will be in the form of proinsulin, and proinsulin will be acted upon by the breaking down and to become active, during which process it elaborates the C-peptide and then amylin. So in short, what is happening is the beta cells produce insulin in the form of proinsulin, and this proinsulin is broken down to release insulin and a C-peptide. So both the things will be in the blood circulation. And delta cells produce somatostatin. And then eta cells produce ghrelin. And then you also have F cells. Sometimes in the examination, wild question is pancreatic polypeptide. And the pancreatic polypeptide is also elaborated by the F cells of the islets of the Langerhans. So in short, alpha cells glucagon and ghrelin, and eta cells also produce ghrelin, and beta cells produce insulin. Insulin will be in the form of proinsulin. Proinsulin is acted upon by the enzymatic action, and it results in the elaboration of insulin and C-peptide. And delta cells produce somatostatin, and F cells produce pancreatic polypeptide. So what exactly is happening is glucose entry through the high capacity transporters and glycolysis, the proximal events. I think not necessary. So glucose uptake, normally what is happening is glucose is taken by GLUT2. So glucose, whenever glucose level rises up, it is acted upon by this, and then glucokinase activity. And then you have the depolarization taking place, and ATP molecules are used here. ATP broken down, ATP is synthesized here, ADP to ATP. And there is opening up of the voltage-gated calcium channels that causes depolarization of the beta cells. And this depolarization of the beta cells results in the elaboration of the synaptic granules. These granules containing the insulin in the form of proinsulin. During enzymatic action before the release, insulin is released together with the C-peptide. In short, so when there is increase in the glucose levels in the blood because of the absorption, depolarization takes place. Depolarization causes the release of the hormone from the beta cells of the islets of the Langerhans. Already these insulin in the proinsulin form is in the granules. Those granules, by the process of endocytosis, that is, they combine with the cell membrane and then coalesce with the cell membrane and elaborate the contents into the extracellular fluid. The insulin is released, and then it may act on the liver. And if the level of insulin glucose is more, it facilitates the absorption of more glucose by the liver cells, and then the liver will go into glycogen synthesis. And it also acts on the muscle cell. The insulin acts on the muscle cell. Glucose is taken up by the muscle cells. And this is insulin and glucose. I'm just jumping into the thing because it is running out of time. So normally the insulin, as I said, it is in the form of proinsulin that is broken down. And then this is the insulin. And this is the C-peptide. The proinsulin has the C-peptide also. So this insulin release and then C-peptide. C-peptide levels will be analyzed in case of necessity. So stimulus, rising blood glucose level, pancreas, and then acts on the liver. So whenever there is, this is a negative feedback in a sense, whenever you feel hypoglycemic before the lunch hour, it results in the stimulus. and the decreased blood sugar level will result in your, there are centers in the brain, that is hunger and satiety center. This hunger center is stimulated and that results in eating, and that results in the rise of the blood sugar level. So high blood sugar level is detected by insulin producing cells in the pancreas, and that results in the elaboration of the insulin. So additional amount of glucose will be going into the liver as glycogen. And in the pancreas secrete this hormone, body cells take up more glucose. And then as the body cells take up glucose, glucose level in the blood decline. And again, the cycle repeats. So this is not necessarily understood. So diabetes mellitus, just sometimes they may just give you diabetes mellitus in the examination as a short question. So type 1 diabetes, that is pancreatic beta cells destroyed. So here there is destruction of the beta cells of the pancreas through insulin deficiency. And then the type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance because of the metabolic syndrome, and relative insulin insufficiency eventually leads to beta cell failure. Secondary forms is MODY, M-O-D-Y. MODY is, this is sometimes this type 2 diabetes occurs in younger age group, that is maturity onset diabetes in young. Note down, MODY, MODY means maturity onset diabetes in young is MODY. So secondary forms of type 2 diabetes can also occur in younger individuals, where there is beta cell failure, And also you see type 2 diabetes in exocrine pancreatic disease. And then if there is excess use of steroids because of any underlying pathological conditions. For example, recently you have the this corona, where indiscriminately steroids are being used in some clinical situations, that also will result in type 2 diabetes. Or the individuals who are stressful can also develop these things. And the other type of diabetes is gestational diabetes, that is subset type 2 diabetes, that is insufficiency of the beta cells, elaboration of pancreas, can also be diagnosed during pregnancy. That particular thing which is developed during pregnancy is called gestational diabetes. So as a medical student, whenever you come across any pregnant woman, you suggest her to have the blood sugar level tested so that you will be trying to check whether the individual is having gestational diabetes or not. So these are the three different types of diabetes. And then this type 1 diabetes is sometimes is called IDDM. These are the old terminology. Insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, IDDM. Insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. So it is a must because there is pancreatic beta cells are not there. Whereas type 2 diabetes is sometimes classified as non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, NIDDM. So whenever you come across this terminology, you don't get confused and then think about these different types of diabetes. So you have what are the things which can result in all these situations will result in increased hyperglycemia. This hyperglycemia can be because of various reasons. And the other one is a gestational diabetes, where the individual who is pregnant may become diabetic because of various underlying pathological conditions. And that is called gestational diabetes. Gestation is carrying, that is gestational diabetes. And type 2 diabetes can occur in a younger individual, that is called the MODY, maturity onset diabetes in young. So this is diabetes, which is very rampant, and most of the people are affected because of the food habits, because of diabetes, genetic predisposition, and because of unhealthy food habits. Is type 1 diabetes, the muscle is unable to use glucose due to low insulin level. You have the glucose, which is normally there, but the individual is not able to make use of the glucose. Glycogen and protein breakdown causing ketoacidosis. So the pancreas, the individual got to be treated. And early administration of insulin is required for these patients to avoid the complications. So people can lead normal life with diabetes type 1 and type 2, provided they monitor the blood glucose levels and take appropriate treatment for these illnesses. Type 2 diabetes, obesity, which is the result of the increased food intake or inheritance because of the genetic predisposition or other factors leading to insulin resistance. And insulin resistance generally is spoken of as the main reason for the type 2 diabetes. Muscle is unable to use glucose due to insulin resistance. So insulin is not acting properly on the glucose to facilitate the entry of glucose into the muscle. So there is consequently more glucose in the bloodstream. So that is eliminated through urine. So sufficient insulin secreted, though insufficient insulin levels are secreted. If it is sufficient, it will be entering into the normal cycle. So this got to be replaced by your stimulation of the pancreas or by giving insulin to these type 2 diabetes patients. Type 1 diabetes is less common than type 2. Type 1 diabetes is less common than type 2. Etiology means the causes for these type 1 diabetes is sometimes it can be because of viral infections. So type 1 diabetes can be because of viral infections, namely the mumps, rubella, cytomegalovirus, etc. of the young individuals, leading to the destruction of the beta cell. Because any viral infection in the body, as it involves the individual, can also damage, besides other organs and structures, can also damage the pancreatic beta cells. And the second most important thing is genetic predisposition. That is HLA-DR3/4. And there are different genotypes, HLA-DQ point mutation. Sometimes there may be mutation, and sometimes it is HLA-DR3 and 4. So just to remember at this point of time, genetic predisposition and mutation sometimes. And sometimes it is autoimmune inflammation, that is islet cell antibodies are formed. So autoimmune disease is that wherein the individual develops antigen against its own cells, unlike the infection. So individual per se will develop these things, and such abnormality is called autoimmune disease. And in such autoimmune involvement, it can damage the islets of its own body. So it can be viral, it can be genetic predisposition, or it can also be because of autoimmunity. What exactly is happening is marked absolute insulin deficiency is resulting in diminished beta cell mass and low serum insulin levels. So this low serum insulin levels is causing all this damage. So the individual develops all these symptoms of diabetes, in passage of increased amount of urine, there is increased thirst and increased eating habits, polyphagy. So this is type 1 diabetes. So how do you treat them? Is pancreatic transplant, islet cell transplant, stem cell transplant, artificial pancreatic device, all these things. So these are not that easy to be done. Even now, there is no surgical procedure for the transplantation, still in the experimental stages. And there will be, it will not be facilitated because most of the people are diabetic and most of the pharmaceutical companies are producing these things. So there may be a drug mafia which may not allow the things to happen, and if not, the surgical treatment, just implanting pancreas to the patient who is diabetes type 1 or type 2 can reduce the illness and pathology of this.